This is CBC Here and Now.
A guilty verdict for a St. John's police officer.
The RNC officer who killed Don Dunphy is convicted of obstruction of justice in relation to a traffic stop. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. Constable Joe Smythe, who killed a man in self-defense while part of a former premier's protective detail, has now been convicted of a criminal offense. A provincial court judge found RNC officer guilty of obstruction of justice this morning.
Yes, Smythe is the officer who killed Don Dunphy at his home in 2015. Today's guilty verdict is in relation to an incident that happened 2 years later after he was returned to duty. Here Now's Mark Quinn reports.
There were so many people in courtroom 1 today that more of them were standing than sitting. Many of them were police officers. Constable Joe Smythe was clearly shaken by Judge Mike Madden's decision. Court was adjourned so he could speak with his lawyer, Jerome Kennedy. They've asked for a pre-sentencing hearing. In 2017, Smythe gave motorcycle driver Syed Husseini 4 traffic tickets, including one for running a red light. Video from a camera on Husseini's bike clearly showed the light was green for him. That ticket was dismissed in court. Madden had to rule whether Smythe had made an honest mistake or knowingly gave Husseini a ticket he didn't deserve. Madden said he couldn't find that Smythe had made a mistake and convicted him of obstructing justice. After the decision, Crown lawyer Lloyd Strickland said the only reasonable conclusion was that Smythe gave a ticket that he knew was false. Smythe has been suspended without pay since last July. The RNC hasn't said yet what this conviction will mean to Smythe's future with the force. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau played it safe on a trip to St. John's today. Trudeau made an appearance at Memorial University, checked in with some Liberal donors, and held a private meeting with Premier Dwight Ball. But there were no big announcements and not much to say on the controversies that have dogged him in Ottawa recently. Here Now's Zach Gowdy reports.
It was a bitter cold day in St. John's, but Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was likely still glad to be out of Ottawa. The PM was all smiles as he greeted construction workers at Memorial University's new Core Sciences building. The federal government has put $100 million towards this project, so it served as a useful backdrop for Trudeau to tout infrastructure investments made in this province.
Infrastructure is about growing our economies, supporting our communities, and helping people get ahead. It's about making our towns and cities not only better places to live, but to work, learn, and innovate.
Next, it was off to a Laurier Club luncheon where Trudeau faced a friendly crowd of Liberal donors.
All of you are more than just donors. You are a key element of our team that makes sure we stay connected with people.
His last stop was a private meeting with Premier Dwight Ball. The leaders took no questions but posed for a handshake and offered some brief remarks before the cameras were whisked away.
Well, of course, the number one priority for us as a province right now will be continuing the discussion on the Atlantic Accord. So, Prime Minister, it's great to welcome you back.
Lots more work to do. You highlight how important it is to move forward positively on the Atlantic Accord. That's exactly what we're intending to do together.
But at each stop, Trudeau avoided making headlines. No announcements and nothing new to say about the SNC-Lavalin scandal. But after weeks of bad press, Trudeau can depart St. John's content that no news is good news. Zach Gowdy, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, after this afternoon's meeting with the Prime Minister, Premier Dwight Ball issued a statement saying Trudeau has committed to completing a review of the Atlantic Accord agreement by the end of March. That essentially means the Premier and the Prime Minister are following the language spelled out under the existing deal. That says the accord has to be that review has to be completed by March 31st, 2019.
There's a lot of good happening in and around St. John's today. I'll tell you how MUN students are making that happen. That's ahead on Here and Now.
Make Windsor matter! Well, you may get a call from an operator offering to lower the interest rate on your credit card. But Marketplace has found they're not looking to help you. Low-interest scams are targeting Canadians for cash and personal information. And it's a story a man in this province can tell firsthand. Here Now's Jen White has that story.
Are you not willing to get 0% interest rate?
I was getting calls about lowering my credit interest on my credit cards, which I never had any issue with my credit cards anyway.
Paul Williams says he started getting some strange calls a couple of years ago.
He knew my credit card numbers, he knew my social insurance number, he knew basically everything about me. So I thought it was kind of real.
But Williams says his suspicions were raised when the man on the phone kept prodding him for more information.
He wanted to know my last 3 numbers on the back of my card, and that's the numbers I wouldn't give to him. And then he hung up.
He's not the only one to have gotten calls like that. Marketplace obtained recordings of close to 200 of them from a source from a call center in Pakistan.
Yes, ma'am. Are you not willing to get 0% interest rates onto your debt?
Okay, well, this is with card services.
What is card services?
We work with all 551 different nationwide lenders on assisting you with your current credit card debt.
Now, Carol, you have authorized us to charge your card for the one-time retainer fee. It's $495. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
We played that audio for Williams.
So there we go. Does that bring back memories?
Very similar, but...
Around the same time that Williams got those calls, a $1,000 charge appeared on his credit card for a laptop he didn't buy. In the end, the charge was reversed, but he still doesn't know how all that happened. Williams is one of thousands of Canadians whose personal information was compromised. His name was on a list that Marketplace got from a source.
So I want to share some information that we got on you.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. If you want to just look here, we got your full name. We've got both phone numbers for you, so I assume this is a home number and a cell number. Those are your numbers?
Yes, the first number I had changed about 4 months ago. And this cell number is not very old. That's only 3 months probably, the cell number.
Really?
Yes. It's
wow.
not that old, that new cell number.
So how did that get on there?
I have no idea.
And then we have your address.
Yeah.
That's right. Your date of birth.
Yes.
Yeah. And then your credit card, which is a TD Visa ending in those numbers.
Yes.
With your expiry.
Yeah.
So any idea how he got your information?
I have no idea. Don't know.
Canada has always been the most favorable market for low-interest scams.
Mohammed Yousefi worked in the call center industry for 20 years.
The whole idea is to actually get a consumer's personal information, personal financial information, which could actually later be used for various different malicious purposes. It could be used to go ahead and apply for new credit cards. The same information could be used to go ahead and clone the credit cards and then misuse them. It could actually be used to refinance their houses, their mortgages, their cars, clean their bank accounts.
Once your information is out there, it's gone. It's very difficult to control.
This expert in information privacy says low-interest scams have been around for at least the past decade.
Personal information is literally money. Information is all about being packaged and being parceled off for someone to buy.
Now, Williams has some advice for others.
Be very cautious. Don't give any information on the phone.
Jen White, CBC News, St. John's.
Now, for more on this story, tune in to Marketplace tonight on CBC TV. That airs at 8:30 Island Time, 8 o'clock in most parts of Labrador, or stream the episode on the CBC Gem.
While the Crown has wrapped its case in the Al Potter first-degree murder trial, the day ended with testimony from Potter's fictitious former boss. The undercover officer shed light on why he says Potter told him just hours before the arrest. Ariana Kellen reports.
This is the day Al Potter will be arrested. He gets a call from his new boss, the man dressed in black. The conversation, planned and deliberate, was not recorded. Back on the stand today, the RCMP corporal says his recording devices failed. Instead, he tells the jury what Potter told him. How they talked of finding a man who owed a debt, a fake story police fed to Potter. How Potter talked of opening his own hitman service. The undercover cop then asks once more about the killing of Dale Porter. A reluctant Potter again says the knife used to stab Porter has been disposed of. But Potter says there is one loose end, the taxi driver who drove him that night. Potter explains the driver even quit his job the next day, a fact the driver himself has told the jury. The officer said Potter showed him what he did that night, using a sleeve to cover his hands to avoid leaving DNA on the cab. When the defense asked if Potter ever acted frightened, the officer said no. He says Potter often cracked jokes. Here, Potter tells the officer about wanting to open a Vikings chapter in central Newfoundland, where the outlaw motorcycle gang has a foothold.
Parking my bike right on the main street, downtown Toronto, Los Angeles, right on the side of my bike, me inside the gym training, my bike right in front there on the main street, and in small towns, everybody knows everybody.
Today, lawyer Randy Piercy questioned the point of the so-called Mr. Big Sting, why police made Potter believe he was burying a dead body. Was it all to just scare him? But the officer said it was about creating a realistic scenario to give undercover officers credibility. The officer even referenced Nelson Hart, the case of a Newfoundland father whose murder conviction was overturned because of a Mr. Big Sting, saying, quote, "In our training, it is very much stressed not to scare a confession out of people." Now it's up to the defense to put forward what and who they want to appear before the jury. That may include Al Potter himself. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, stepping out your front door this morning was quite cold, especially through parts of Central. Badger took the cake today, minus 28 when you woke up this morning. Temperatures, though, have warmed quite nicely. These were your afternoon highs in the minus single digits right across the board, up through the Northern Peninsula, a tad cooler, and then same with Labrador sitting in the minus teens this afternoon. Looking ahead towards the weekend, first we're going to have to get through an extreme cold warning for the Northern Peninsula. We're looking at wind chills tonight, about minus 35, and then improving as we head through the afternoon tomorrow. But taking a look at the future tracker, not a whole lot in store for your Saturday, not a whole lot for Sunday either. The next system moves in for Monday. I'll have all those details and your full forecast when I come back. Carolyn?
Thanks, Ashley. Well, you will soon have to pay to get the full story from newspapers such as The Telegram. The company that owns the paper and many other local newspapers in the province is introducing a subscription service on its website. Saltwire Network says readers will have to pay to see some online articles. Breaking news won't be affected, but people will have to pay to read exclusive material and investigative stories. The paywall begins later this month.
The man behind Teuton's photo stores has died. Jeff Teuton was 67 years old. He grew the family business during the 1970s and 80s. He also served as the president of the St. John's Board of Trade, which is where you see him right there now. He was also the president of the St. John's Rotary Club. He died in Nova Scotia, where he moved 2 years ago.
Students at Memorial University are making midterm break matter today. Instead of sleeping in, a group of students headed to campus to do some good. Here Now's Katie Breen has that story.
This is what Memorial University looked like today. With no classes, you'd think it'd be empty, but about 100 students showed up to help out.
So SBCA is over here.
They're here to make midterm break matter. An event that started 12 years ago after an employee noticed students, especially ones from out of province, were lonely. So the school stepped in to help students connect.
We give them a place to go, we give them transport and a lunch for the day, and then that's used as a gateway basically to further their volunteer involvement and further their involvement with community locally.
Divided into groups, they're shipped out across the Avalon to retirement homes, the Flavarium, thrift stores, anywhere that needs extra hands, students go and volunteer for the day. Out in the cold, this moving van isn't going to fill itself. 5 students went to Home Again, a furniture bank that collects donated furniture and delivers it to people in need.
I think it's a really good thing they have going on over here, because lots of people, they may not be able to get the furniture they want, and this is a really good opportunity for the people who can give and the ones who need to come together and help each other out in the community.
They helped with the heavy lifting, and it turns out one even knew how to do repairs.
Yeah, I used to break a lot of things at home, and my mom forced me to fix the stuff I broke. That's it. So I learned by practice.
Make Midterm Matter happens every semester. That's 3 times a year. But for Home Again, it was a first.
Many hands make light work is what we've always said, but today it's going so smooth. It's beautiful.
Just like that, delivery time. Students unload, and now another house furnished. And there are plenty more to go. Home Again says it has 200 people on the wait list, so those extra hands were a big help. So much of a help, Home Again says it's going to sign up for Make Midterm Matter again. Organizers say that's great because they're actually looking for more community partners. So if you have a group that could use some extra brain or brawn, give the university a call. Katie Breen, CBC News, St. John's.
What a great initiative
Yeah.
to take students who would otherwise be sitting around twiddling their thumbs on
Watching
their week
TV
off.
or,
Exactly.
you know.
And often people are interested in getting involved, but they don't know like
How
who do I approach? Are they even looking for help? So it gives you a day, try it out. Maybe if you like it, you'll stick around and help out again.
Yes, great idea.
Canada's ability to study the ocean ain't what it used to be.
Millions being spent to rent private research vessels despite government having a fleet of its own. CBC reporter Paul Withers has that story ahead.
This weather forecast is brought to you by Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism. 5,000 kilometers of groomed trails are waiting to be explored. Embrace winter today.
Ashley, you've been busy today. Not only have you been putting together a big weekend forecast, but you were also reading this morning to a bunch of kids.
I did. It's World Literacy Day today. So the students were celebrating at Hazelwood Elementary today. And this is me reading to them. A very
rambunctious
excited bunch of kids for sure. This is Miss Holden's class. They're all grade 1, read to 3 classes, and we did the napping house. It was called.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Did they ask you any weather questions or anything?
Oh, they sure did. Yeah, they sure did. They had lots of questions. Yeah, and then so this is a look at their costumes. Each one of them dressed up as their favorite character.
Oh, nice.
Oh. Yeah. So we also went to Miss Halliday's class there, and then Mr. Bartlett.
There you go. You were busy.
I was busy. It was so nice. Yeah, the weather questions were, do you love your job? Do you, how long have you wanted to do this? Those sorts of things. They were super interested, curious little minds.
It's fun reading to kids, like in a classroom.
Oh, yeah. And then you just get to play up the story and stuff. I've never read that book before. It was really good. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, it's Friday.
It is.
And how's the weather going to be looking this weekend?
The all-important weekend question. Well, you got to bundle up if you're going to head out. But overall, it looks like a pretty nice weekend. We'll take a look at the forecast, or rather the temperatures that we're currently seeing. So we saw daytime highs today between -6 and -8 across the island. Those temperatures have dropped a little bit, sitting around -11 in Corner Brook, -8 in Gander, and St. Anthony currently sitting at -14. Now, the winds weren't as bad today, and currently sitting anywhere between 20 to about 40 kilometers per hour. And as we head through the night tonight, we're going to see some strengthening winds up along the northern peninsula. So we are going to see some cooler wind chill. So this is what we're looking at right now, about -23 for St. Anthony. Otherwise, we're in the -teens. Feels much better than it has for most of the week today. But again, we still have that extreme cold warning. We're looking at wind chills tonight, upwards of about feeling more like -35. So definitely bundle up if you have any Friday night plans. But taking a look at the satellite and radar, not much happening. It looked like an absolutely gorgeous day right across the province. Just a few flurries for the southwestern portion. But other than that, a lovely afternoon. And as we head towards the evening hours, we're just looking at the slight chance of some onshore flurries along the west coast, northeast coast, and the south coast as well tonight, with those winds gusting upwards between 50 and 60 kilometers per hour. Temperatures are going to be chilly again for at least the lower lying areas for sure, into the -20s. -24 will be your overnight low in Grand Falls, Windsor, plus or minus a couple of degrees. And then Gander, same thing, around -22. St. Anthony, or rather Gander at -20, St. Anthony sitting around -22 tonight. Up through Labrador, those temperatures sitting in the -20s with generally clear skies thanks to that ridge of high pressure. Those northwest winds still gusting somewhere between 40 and 60 kilometers per hour. So a little bit of a wind chill as we head through the night tonight. But taking a look at that future tracker, again, not much happening, which is good news for your weekend. But if you do have any plans, make sure you do bundle up because those temperatures are going to be quite chilly through the afternoon. We're looking at dipping back down again into the minus double digits, so -12 for Clarenville. Again, we are looking at that potential for some flurries in onshore flow. Otherwise, a mix of sun and cloud. -9 should be your afternoon high for Marystown. The Avalon generally looking at about -10 to -12. Up through parts of central, Grand Falls, Windsor, -12, same thing for Gander. And then again, that potential along the northeast coast for a few flurries, but generally looking at a mix of sun and cloud right across the board. And then for the west coast, maybe a few squalls, shouldn't amount to too much, but in those bands, you could see some heavy snow at times. And then -13 for Corner Brook should be your afternoon high. Up through the northern peninsula, though, tapping into that sunshine and plenty of it. -13 for St. Anthony, and then nothing but sunshine for the big land. We're looking at temperatures in the -teens right across the board. Sunday looks pretty nice as well. I'll have all those details because the next storm comes in on Monday. Carolyn?
Thanks, Ashley. Well, a new study says Canada's ability to study its own ocean has sharply declined. The report says Canada's aging research vessels break down so often and require so much maintenance. The federal government has been forced to spend millions over the last 2 years chartering private vessels for basic ocean monitoring. All this at a time when climate change makes understanding the ocean more important than ever. The CBC's Paul Withers has more.
Liz Kerrigan is a marine research assistant at Dalhousie University. Her work as a chemical oceanographer has taken her to Canada's North Atlantic several times. She knows all about the scarcity of ship time.
It's definitely a problem for Canadian ships. It's nice, I've been able to go on a lot of different vessels. I've actually never gone on a Canadian vessel. I've been on 2 German vessels and 1 Irish vessel.
Her experience is not surprising, given the findings of a new report charting the steep decline in Canada's ability to deliver ocean research. The fact is, Canada's ability to study the ocean ain't what it used to be. Old ships were retired, aging ships still afloat, break down more often and require longer maintenance these days. The result is a service level only about 1/3 what it was in the mid-1980s. Over the past 2 years, the government of Canada has spent $4.6 million chartering private vessels to carry out basic ocean monitoring.
The situation is not acceptable.
Oceanographer Doug Wallace says Canada has the oldest fleet in the developed world. And the oldest of them all, the 56-year-old oceanographic science vessel Hudson, is in St. John's for a refit that it is hoped will keep her on the water for another 5 to 10 years. On average, Canada's fleet is 5 years older than the average scrap age for merchant vessels. Canada's decline comes when climate change has made ocean science more important than ever.
What that means is that we're increasingly restricted in what we can do at a time when our oceans are becoming more and more critical, both for Canada but also for the world.
3 new federal fisheries vessels will eventually come into service in the 2020s. That will help, but demand for ship time will still exceed supply and not address a gap that exists for industry, universities, and provincial governments. The report says what's needed is coordination between those users to maximize the economic benefits of chartering a vessel or otherwise pooling funds.
We just don't at the moment have the structures really in place to do that, either in Atlantic Canada or on a national basis.
So this was the Canadian contingent.
For now, Liz Kerrigan and others like her will catch a lift when they can. Paul Withers, CBC News, Halifax.
They're concerned about the environmental impact of the Lower Churchill project and how the dam will impact their way of life. Today, members of the Grand River Keepers and the Labrador Land Protectors gave some strongly worded testimony at the Muskrat Falls inquiry. Here now's Jacob Barker was there.
I sat in this inquiry and I listened so long about behind schedule and over budget. I don't give a shit about that, excuse the language.
It's the locals who will have to live with the effects Muskrat Falls has on the environment. The dam will change the flow of the river. Roberta Benefield took part in the environmental assessment of the project, a process she says was hard for the public to engage in.
At the end of this inquiry, if there's a recommendation that can come out of it, I would love to see something about environmental assessments and how they're conducted and how ministers and politicians have to deal with them.
She says the province and Nalcor have swept aside concerns, the opinions of scientists, and fears of a catastrophic failure in the North Spur area of the project.
Nalcor, you haven't done the proper studies. You haven't done the proper risk assessment.
Marjorie Flowers spent time in jail for her part in major protests at the site in October 2016. Her fears echoed by hundreds of others about the effect methyl mercury produced by the project will have on wild food downstream.
To know that the seals and the salmon, the shellfish, the mussels, everything will be affected. Everything will be affected. That's everything that we eat.
And it's not just the loss of a food source, it's also the loss of a way of life, an important cultural practice for Indigenous people.
It's critical and it's important and it is spiritual.
As a result of those 2016 protests, an independent committee was formed to address concerns. a recommendation to further clear the reservoir of vegetation to mitigate the effects of methyl mercury on the environment, still not addressed by the provincial government.
A delay in the decision is because they don't know what to do at this point. They don't know what to do with us. They don't know what to do about spending more money to take out that soil and where to put it.
And depending on future decisions, the pair isn't ruling out further action on the ground. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
Well, special recognition today for a magazine that has been telling the stories of Labrador for nearly half a century. The Newfoundland and Labrador Historical Society held a small celebration at Government House today to recognize the work of them days. The magazine has been collecting and promoting stories of the big land and its people in their own words and their own language since 1975. Today, its publishers received the 2019 Newfoundland and Labrador Heritage Award. It is terribly tedious work. Coming up, I'll tell you why these researchers are scouring through the seaweed here on the beach in Arnold's Cove looking for tiny pieces of plastic. Researchers at Memorial University are combing the shoreline of Placentia Bay, searching for pieces of plastic big and small. It's cold, tedious work, but identifying the debris washing up on the beach can say a lot about what's happening in the ocean. We met up with the team on the beach in Arnold's Cove.
We are out around Placentia Bay every month looking for mostly plastic debris. Right now we're in Arnold's Cove, and we are here every month 4 days in a row looking for pieces of plastic on the beach. We do a survey for large debris, large being bigger than 2.5 centimeters, so it can be pretty small, which is why the girls behind me are down on their hands and knees. A lot of the plastic that we find in the seaweed strand lines is actually quite small. It's a lot of small pieces of film and little pieces of thread. But we also do specific quadrats for microplastics. So we'll put down a quadrat on the strand line, take everything in a bucket, take it back to the lab, and look through it for those things that go down to 1 millimeter in size. It's very time consuming to look for small pieces of plastic in the lab, so anything bigger than that is a bit too much because we do 8 of them across each beach.
What have you found so far?
Well, we're in 5 or 6 different locations around Placentia Bay. So the first thing we found is that every single place is completely different. So the garbage that washes up in Arnold's Cove looks completely different than what washes up in St. Bride's or Point Lance. Most of what we're finding is things like threads from fishing ropes wearing and tearing, a lot of pieces of film and sheeting, a lot of lobster bands, not a lot of things that look like litter.
Right. Because this isn't a cleanup either.
Nope.
You have another purpose for this. What's your purpose?
So the purpose is not to clean, although we do clean because we're here and we're very thankful for Arnold's Cove having us here. So we like to clean up behind us, but the idea is to monitor. So we want to know at each site around Placentia Bay what kind of things are coming in and what their origin might be. So are they coming from Placentia Bay, or are they coming from out in the Gulf, or is it fishing debris, is it shipping debris, is it litter? That's what we want to know, because we can't really do much in the way of regional management and policy unless we know where things are actually coming from for this region.
What is the ultimate goal here? Once you are finished collecting and studying the bits of debris, what do you then hope to do?
So we are going to be doing this for 4 years. So by the time we're done, we're going to have a very comprehensive baseline of debris in Placentia Bay. So the hope is that if we have this baseline, we can say more about any developments that lead to a change later on down the road. So we have this comprehensive set of data. So if 10 years from now there's a big industrial activity in Placentia Bay and there's more things washing up, we can prove that it came from that. And we can also take this data to policymakers and say, okay, hey, so 95% of what we're finding on the beach in Arnold's Cove is fragments of fishing rope. So why can't we change how we make fishing rope? Aquaculture is a really good example, actually, because the aquaculture project that's going in here is salmon. So if you don't have an idea of what was here before a development like that started, you can't come down and say, all this rope is from aquaculture. Or the aquaculture company could say, all that rope is from fisheries. So if we have a good baseline that tells us what kind of things we're finding now and what the levels of them are every month or every day for a week of every month, then we can hopefully see a change in just the number of rope or the different types of wear or the different colors on the rope. So that's definitely one possible outcome.
You're almost like an environmental watchdog.
Yeah, we're trying to be.
Yeah. It does seem like very tedious, very painful work, though.
It gets more tedious and more painful the later into the winter it gets, so.
Suffering for science.
Yeah.
Now, Jessica Melvin is actually getting international recognition for her work with plastics.
Yeah, next week she's going to be one of 3 Canadian researchers presenting at an ocean plastic conference in Paris, France.
Wow, sounds great. Welcome back to Here and Now. It's the last hurrah for 4-star basketball players on the Memorial University Seahawks. If you look at the leaderboard for points, rebounds, blocks, and free throws, you'll find their names. But soon they'll be hanging up their jerseys. MUN's final 2 home games will be played tonight and tomorrow afternoon. The final time, the Fab Four will play on home court.
Hi, my name is Sydney Stewart and I'm from Sarnia, Ontario. When I came here for my trip in the summer before my first year, I really found that the girls were very close and it just seems like a very close-knit family, more so than the schools I went to back home, and because of that, that's why I chose here and I'm glad I did. The whole town is very nice, and I'm not used to a city that's as kind as they are to people that they don't even know, and that's a thing that I really had to get used to here from being from a city that's not as kind, but not as welcoming as a city like St. John's.
My name is Sydney Ezekiel. I'm from St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm pretty excited. It's always great to play in the field house. You always get a great crowd, so it's pretty exciting every time. So it'll be interesting to be the last one. Sadness hasn't really hit me yet, but it'll be good.
Hi, I'm Brooklyn Wright, and I'm from Cambridge, Ontario. Went to a couple places in the States, and then I also had a recruit visit at UNB.
So why did you choose Memorial University?
Like when I came here, like the team was really nice. Like I knew Megan Robinson before I came here. It's a little sad. Like it's been a long 6 years.
My name is Rosie Stanoy, but I'm from St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. It's been a really great experience overall. There's been a lot of learning and a lot of growing as a person. I'm a completely different person than when I started my first year, and I think a much better person. I've also had the opportunity to meet a bunch of amazing girls. I've gotten so many good friendships out of this. I met my best friend that I would never have met if it wasn't for basketball. It's a bit bittersweet. It's weird how quick it went by. 5 years flew by in a blink of an eye. I'm looking forward to having a bit more time to spend in other areas and not having to show up to practice every night. But I'll definitely miss being around the girls, even though we're still friends outside of it. It'll be definitely an adjustment with how I spend my time now.
We're on into our tuna sets 1 and 4, and then we're going up and back 1. So we'll have reds down here, whites down here. 4 very talented young women. They bring it every night. They brought it for the last 4 years, every single practice. When I got hired 4 years ago, we had a rough start. We didn't make the playoffs. These girls were here for that. They made a conscious effort together that wasn't going to happen again, and since then we've clinched playoffs. We're in it for 3 years in a row now. They're a bulk of the scoring, a bulk of the leadership. It's not going to be easy. Obviously we're going to miss them, but it's a program. We'll move on, but they'll be Seahawks for life. All right, let's go.
Turning now to some national news. While SNC-Lavalin keeps making political news, the company had some financial news to report today. It posted a huge loss for the latest quarter. $1.6 billion. The company is facing fraud and bribery charges related to contracts in Libya. SNC-Lavalin has also issued profit warnings recently related to a mining project and its oil and gas business.
Victims of a mass shooting in Toronto and their families are calling for tougher gun laws. Back in July, 2 people were killed and 13 wounded when a gunman opened fire in the city's popular Greektown neighborhood.
Because Reese and Juliana don't have a voice anymore, we are doing this in their honor. No family should ever have to go through what my family and the Kosises do.
The sister of 18-year-old Reese Fallon, who was killed in the attack, is among those calling for a complete ban on the private ownership of handguns and assault rifles. 10-year-old Juliana Kosis was also killed. Today, police confirmed they have completed their investigation of the shootings, but they're not commenting on their findings.
Funeral services will be held tomorrow for the 7 refugee children killed in a house fire in Halifax, and the public is invited to attend the ceremony. The children, ranging in age from 3 months to 14 years old, came to Canada with their parents in 2017 after escaping the civil war in Syria. Their Halifax home was destroyed by fire early Tuesday morning. Now, the group that originally sponsored the family has raised about $500,000 so far. It's the second largest Canadian GoFundMe campaign to date after the Humboldt Broncos tragedy. The money will be used to help their father recover from severe burns and bring members of the mother's family to Canada. The Prime Minister says efforts are being made to expedite those relatives' immigration.
This weather update is brought to you by Beltone, helping the world hear better.
Well, Ashley's here now with the weather forecast. So the weekend is looking pretty good. And then what happens?
Then things get a little bit dicey. But yeah, we're gonna look at Saturday or Sunday's forecast rather, and as I said before, there's not a ton happening. So taking a look at the future tracker, we can see some cloud cover potentially moving through in the early morning hours, and then otherwise an absolutely gorgeous Sunday. Some brisk winds though, making it feel a little cooler than it actually is. And then we start to see that system move in by the time the overnight and morning rolls around on Monday. But those temperatures again are going to stay quite cool. Minus teens essentially everywhere along the south coast, a couple of degrees warmer in the minus single digits. But overall we are looking at a mix of sun and cloud, chance of a few onshore flurries for the west coast and then potentially the northeast coast again, and that's just because we're in that pattern. And then same for Lab City, except that's going to be the snow that will move in for that system. Now, looking ahead, the good news is we get out of that cooler air, some warmer air moves in, but it doesn't last very long. We'll start to get back into those cooler temperatures which means the snow squall setup will kick in again. So here's a look at the future tracker into Sunday overnight. There's that cloud cover that moves in, then snow moves in for the afternoon on Monday. The winds are also going to pick up as well. So we'll see that happen into the afternoon, a southerly flow as that low continues to track across the province. We're going to see some colder air wrapping around it as well, which means we get into that northwesterly flow, and then that's where we're going to see those snow squalls, as I mentioned. Now, this low hangs around for a while, right through Wednesday. In fact, up through Labrador, it's going to be a pretty snowy week, and then again along the west coast because of those snow squalls. And then even the south coast as well, because we're into that favorable area. So here's a look at your 5-day forecast. St. John's and eastern Newfoundland, mainly sunny, but I do still have that potential for onshore flurries in the forecast between -12 and -10. So if you do have any plans to enjoy that sunshine, make sure you bundle up because it will be a little bit breezy. And then Monday is when we'll see that snow. Now, early indications showing between 5 to 10 centimeters right now, but that will likely change 3 times by the time Monday rolls around. And then those windy conditions. Temperatures are going to climb towards seasonal, should be sitting around 0 for this time of year, and then -5 for Wednesday. Now into central Newfoundland, nothing but sunshine until that system rolls in, and then we're going to see that potential for lingering flurries through Tuesday and Wednesday with highs in the -single digits. And then through western Newfoundland, it's generally going to be a mix of sun and cloud with the chance of flurries or squalls. And then we get into the persistent squalls potentially. Monday will be the snowy and windy, and then squalls through Wednesday. Temperatures in the -single digits there as well. Now for eastern Labrador, sunshine for the weekend, beautiful temperatures in the -teens near seasonal, and then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday will stay gray, with that potential to reach about -6 by the time Tuesday rolls around. And then we'll see the same thing for western Labrador with the flurries moving in late day and then light snow continuing right through Wednesday. So just before we go to break, wanted to share our weather photo with you. A beautiful scene there in Central. Does that look like your backyard? If it does, take a guess and I'll tell you where this photo was taken when we come back.
Well, Fridays are great for so many reasons, but you know what this time of the show is?
Time to find out who's celebrating birthdays and anniversaries.
Happy 95th birthday to Chess Wilcott of St. Albans, now living in Grand Falls, Windsor. Celebrating her 99th birthday is Jean Sparks from Cornerbrook. Happy birthday. Art Sturge of St. John's turned 92 on Monday. Greetings from family and friends. Happy 91st birthday to Jean Walters of Boat Harbor West, who celebrated on Wednesday. Calvin and Myra Greening of Musgrave Town, Bonavista Bay, celebrated their 50th anniversary on Valentine's Day. Congratulations.
Loretta Bryan of Island Harbor, now living in Lewisport, celebrated her 92nd birthday on February 11th. Happy belated birthday to you. Happy 90th birthday to Kirby Genge, who celebrated his birthday last Sunday. Happy 91st birthday to Joyce Hutchings from Whitburn, now in Carbonear. Congratulations to Pearl and Ralph Roberts of Cupids, who celebrated their 66th wedding anniversary on Monday. Anniversary greetings going out to Jethro and Thelma Mercer of Stephenville. They celebrated their golden 50th on Monday.
It's a 53rd wedding anniversary for Garland and Audrey Rogers of Hare Bay. They celebrated on Saturday. Happy 50th anniversary to Verd and Patricia Ellis of Bishops Falls. Happy anniversary to Gerald and Kathleen Hunter of Salvage, celebrating their 64th wedding anniversary yesterday. Congratulations. Also celebrating an anniversary yesterday are Norman and Helen Kendall of Morrisville Bay to Spare. It's their 56th anniversary. Happy birthday to Dorothy Ross of Buren. She's celebrating her 90th birthday tomorrow.
Happy 92nd birthday to Annie Nichols of Nicholsville. She celebrated yesterday. Happy birthday to Mary Jane Buckle of Old Fort Bay in Quebec. She turns 101. Special anniversary greetings to George and Gloria Noseworthy of Leading Tickles. They celebrated their 56th wedding anniversary yesterday. Happy anniversary to Ruth and Leslie Roberts of St. Paul's River in Quebec. It was their 53rd anniversary yesterday. Happy 56th anniversary to Jack and Beatrice Han of Burgeo, who celebrated their special day yesterday. And here they are with their great-granddaughter, Reese.
Happy 59th anniversary to Hayward and Lucy Han of Port Blandford. Congratulations to Mary and Dominic Corbett of Holyrood, celebrating 67 years of marriage tomorrow. Happy 53rd anniversary to Stanley and Gladys Powell of Stoneville. Happy 94th birthday to Sarah Hedderson of Streetsview.
Happy 91st birthday to Clarence Smith in Grand Falls, Windsor. He's celebrating with family and friends. Also celebrating his 91st birthday today, Joseph Newhook of Norman's Cove. Happy birthday. And a happy 96th birthday to Clarence Butler, who celebrates tomorrow. Happy 91st birthday to Janie Riggs of Grand Bank. Hilda Green is celebrating her 93rd birthday today. She lives in Port aux Basques.
Alfreda Reed of Heart's Delight will celebrate her 90th birthday this Wednesday. Also celebrating a 90th birthday is Harold Greening. His birthday's tomorrow. Happy 60th wedding anniversary to Norman and Marcella Kendall. Happy 90th birthday greetings to Cecilia Nolan of Gander, now living in St. John's. And happy 90th birthday to Jack Kiersey of St. John's. Enjoy your hunting trip this spring. Wow.
Fine crowd.
Absolutely. Always a great group celebrating birthdays and anniversaries, and we wish everyone the best who might be celebrating this weekend.
Exactly.
And nice weather for celebrating.
Yeah.
Yes.
The great thing about all of these cold temperatures is some blue sky and a little bit of sunshine.
Absolutely. Lots of vitamin D this weekend, but it's also been leading to some beautiful pictures in the morning. This was a morning shot, and I asked you to take a guess, and if you guessed Botwood, you were correct.
Beautiful Botwood.
Yeah, beautiful morning there. Susan Vincent sent us that photo there.
Thanks so much,
Yeah.
Susan, for sharing that view from the lake there. It's definitely been cold, though. If you're going out to take pictures, you definitely want to have the mitts, the hat, the everything. Although it's funny, I was going by the high school the other morning, and some things never change. Even with minus 30 wind chills,
So do I. I know
the
exactly
kids
what
were
you're saying.
still getting out of the car with no mitts, no hat, no coat on, and
Because it looks cooler.
yeah. But if only they realized that their parents did the exact same thing when they were their age. Like, they
Everybody
think
does.
they're being so rebellious, but it.
You don't want to be in your big puffy winter coat. And yeah, it's not nearly as cool.
No, it isn't. I didn't wear boots
But
for a
it's
long
cold.
time. Yeah, exactly.
Then you smartened up.
Yeah.
Then I smartened up and then became a meteorologist and know when to bundle up.
Exactly, yeah. You have no excuse. If you're walking around without mitts, you can't be like, I didn't know it was going to be this cold.
I absolutely
And
have no.
you're taking a bit of time off next week,
I
some
am.
well-deserved time.
Yeah, and you're going to take over for
I'll
me?
fill in for you for the week,
Yeah.
and then you'll be back.
I'll be back.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right. Well, have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.
Good night.